Hello, everyone, and welcome back to RHAP here for the Big Brother Retrospective podcast. We are here to talk about season 20. Truly like a little oasis in a sea of not so great seasons. Big Brother 20 came along and revitalized the Big Brother spirit. I'm excited to talk about it. With me to talk about it this week is Aman. How you doing, Aman?
I am great. I'm very excited to be back to talk about Big Brother 20. I didn't expect to be back after getting the privilege to do BB10, but it looks like I've gotten the privilege to, do the 10-year anniversaries of the show, and I'm very, very, very pleased with that and excited to talk about one of the best seasons of Big Brother ever. So yeah, really excited. Lots to dig into, lots to gnaw on. This is going to be good.
Every 10 years, Aman comes back for a season.
Yep.
All right. Well, this is normally the time I would show you the Big Brother 19 poster, but this is my bad. We don't have it ready yet. So we may or may not have it ready. Last time it was able to be ready by the end of the podcast. That may or may not happen. But either way, we will give you the Big Brother 19 poster, whether it's this week or next week. So stay tuned for that. Aman, I can still get your guess as to what you think is on the poster.
For the BB19 poster?
BB19.
Well, definitely Paul. Josh, obviously. Now that third one is so hard because there's so many good ones. I want to say Raven because it's Raven and she's still drinking that Kool-Aid. Yeah. I don't think I need to overcomplicate it. I think Raven is probably the next big one from that season. There are other contenders there. You could maybe make the argument for like a Cody situation, maybe a Jessica situation, or maybe like a Jody situation too for the price of one. But I think Raven is probably the safer bet. I think.
All right. Well, we will find out eventually, Aman. Let's get into Big Brother 20 though. A year after Big Brother 19 airs, Big Brother 20 comes along, and it's all new players this time. First time in a while that it's been all new players. There's no siblings of players or singers. There's no returning players. It's really like since basically Big Brother 12. There hasn't been such a new cast. Big Brother 16 could potentially qualify, but Frankie Grande being a little bit of a stunt cast. But like this is like truly all new anonymous players. We don't know any of them coming into the season, and it gets off to quite an interesting start. Aman, there's I would say not a lot of excitement about Big Brother 20 beforehand. I think a lot of people are kind of like down on Big Brother.
Yeah, we definitely, I forgot about the sort of like anonymity drought, as it were, that we were going through at that point in time. Like you mentioned, I think a lot of us were sort of starved for freshness, newness. We want something that we haven't seen before. We want all new players. We want to feel that surge of energy. And so, yeah, what was so interesting about this preseason is I remember the exact day that the cast not got announced, but got leaked. I don't know if you remember this, Taran, but I remember Evil Dick being sort of the main one that sort of like got the cast pictures ready. And I'll never forget it because this was the same summer that Incredibles 2 had come out. I remember there was like so much buzz that whole day. He was like teasing that he would release something. I was in the movie, and then as soon as I get out of Incredibles 2, Twitter is just a Twitter with these pictures. I remember the cast photos, the preliminary cast photos for the Big Brother 20 cast were busted. Okay, those were the worst photos for some of them. Like,
well, let's see if we have them.
They were like, I don't even think, is it those ones? I don't even think it's those ones. I think they were like
okay.
They were like those were the finds, but they were like the snapshots, like the portraits without like not the full body shots. They just all looked like distorted versions of themselves. Tyler looks not that there's anything wrong with looking feminine, but he looked straight up like a woman in his photo. Like Caitlyn looked like 10 times older than she actually was. They were just not a good representation, and I feel like everyone was so excited for an entirely new cast. But the minute that these busted photos came out, everyone was like, never mind. Bring back some of the oldies. We don't want it. Everybody looks ugly. I was like, damn, y'all are superficial as hell. But yes.
Were they the photos that I guess I guess that makes sense. This one was funny to me because I was still, I was a couple years in now. I had gotten the cast also beforehand. And so I had seen like the embargo stuff, and I'd been like, I would of course always follow the rules. And so when I saw it was leaked and people said, oh, Evil Dick leaked them, I was like, oh, he didn't follow the rules. Classic Evil Dick.
Yep.
Classic
Evil Dick. It was definitely a really fun time, and everyone was just, the preseason of any Big Brother season is always so great, but this one in particular stands out in my memory just because of the whole evil dickness of it all. And there are other things on this that might not be podcast appropriate that were also revealed during this time, so you can go and do that searching if you want to. But yeah, just a lot of fun, and a lot of just like apprehensive excitement, we'll say.
They're, I think, a lot less free with their casts nowadays. I don't get casts early anymore.
Yeah, I mean, with COVID and everything, and the fact that they themselves have been messing up with casting people that are already on other shows, I think that they have really just decided to, just put a clamp on it and keep these as secret as possible, which, is fine. It adds to the tension, whatever.
Yeah. Big Brother 20, again, the cast is kind of like, we'll see. We'll see is kind of, I think, the general idea. What I thought was interesting was that a lot of people were looking at Tyler. And he was a super fan. He was like this fit guy, but the question was kind of like, is he like, is he more Dan Giesling or is he more Zach Rance? I think was kind of the idea at the time. And I think a lot of people initially bounced off of Tyler. He won the first HOH and people thought, oh, that's not the move. That's not the play. He's playing too hard. He was supposed to be throwing stuff, lowering his threat level. Here he is winning the first HOH. What a disaster.
Yeah, that was definitely the preeminent meta at the time. Was winning the first HOH was not the way to go. It was the number one thing that would put a target on your back, and we got to see that theory tested with this HOH in Tyler because, and there was a little bit of apprehension even with Tyler based off of his, his preseason interviews and, well, not necessarily the preseason interviews, but the way that he was portrayed in his intro package, dumb, surfer bro, blonde, even though we find out later on in the season, he never surfed a day in his life, as with the words of his mom. And everyone sort of was comparing him to David Gurton at the time, considering him to be a bit of a first boot. And then he goes ahead and wins this HOH. And then it's like, hold on. He actually isn't. Yeah, he still kind of has like that sort of like, bro type tone in the diary rooms. But what's coming out of his mouth isn't necessarily matching the accent. Like he's actually very, very, intentional with how he was playing the game and what types of relationships he was trying to establish very early on. I think that really caught a lot of people's attention. Yeah.
Yes. And so, I mean, it's really like it's the entire season is going to go by and the people in the house are never going to, get rid of this initial notion that Tyler's just like some surfer bro that is a wounded bird and easily influenced. It's maybe to his detriment by the end. But we had first of all, there were some twists, of course, being introduced. Because of course, like Big Brother, very timely, very in the moment. In Big Brother 20, and this was in 2018. They thought App Store.
Yeah.
That'll
F
we
'em up.
are hip.
Yeah. Apps, these things that have been on your phone for damn near a decade at this point. Yeah. It's so futuristic. It's so everything, because this was also what anniversary was this? I guess the 20th anniversary. Like, so they were, this was also the
It wasn't
season where they,
technically the 20th anniversary because it was
right, because of the double
it
year.
started
Yeah.
with 0, and then you skip an extra one with Baby 9 because you had the extra season.
Right. But they decided, because this was also the first season with the double doors, correct?
With the double doors.
Or was that season 16? Wait, when did the
That's
double
a good
doors
question,
appear?
actually.
I just remember this was the season where they invited a bunch of alumni to be in the premiere, correct? Or am I thinking of something else?
I think it might have been, actually. Because it wasn't season 20 or season 22, obviously.
And I don't.
I bet it
think
was, because I think they
21.
were doing a bunch of outreach, and that's part of why random people had the casts.
Oh yeah, that would make sense. That makes sense. Someone said BB-18 was the first with the double doors. My apologies, I stand corrected. But I forget what the point was that you were making. I'm taking us down that road.
App Store. The twist is that once is similar to the America's Care package that we had in season 18. We had something also similar in Big Brother OTT. They are going to have America vote for people to receive
a power
app.
Yeah.
So and I believe, yeah, so like the way that people voted was like who's the most trending person, where like theoretically it was about like answer questions about it, but you were just choosing the person you wanted to get it. That was right. It was like one of those personality quizzes that's like, what animal are you? How would you growl if you were an animal? Like a tiger, like a lion, like a bear. You're like a tiger. It's like,
yeah, it's like BuzzFeed for kindergartners, essentially. Yeah.
And then the person, but the somewhat interesting thing about that was that the person who received the least amount of attention or votes got the cleverly named RHAP app.
Yeah. So I guess like social media themed type season, internet type deal.
They're going to have a hacker competition with the @ symbol as the A.
Yeah. I mean, was there anything? I mean, I don't even know why I'm asking this question, because we know that Big Brother is notoriously behind when it comes to choosing themes. But like, was there anything in particular about this time period where social media was experiencing like a new renaissance or whatever? Because I just feel like it was
they were years behind. When I talk about like the abundant, like the era of social media in Big Brother, it's Big Brother 15 and 16, not Big Brother 20.
Yeah, Big Brother 20.
Big Brother 20 is when they sort of realized.
Yeah, you were very much in a small bit of a cultural zeitgeist. But yeah, I don't know why they're so far behind, because it seems like, well, I guess we do know why, but it feels like
all the emoji faces in this photo, and so yeah, it's a strange thing. And basically this happens for 3 weeks. There's 3 powers that are given out, 3 punishments that are given out. Nobody intentionally used any of the powers.
No.
Yeah.
Some of it due to good gameplay, some of it not.
The only power that was used was forced to be used. So it didn't exactly play out well. However, the one that was forced to be used did lead to one of the best moments of the season. So we'll talk about that. The first person to get a power was Sam. And that is in large part due to the fact that, as you can see in this photo, she was also a robot.
I'm a robot.
So the first night they were divided into two halves, as they often do. Two people got punishments. I believe it was Casey got the other one. She had to dress up in like a silly costume, and then Sam got the
Yes.
punishment of being a robot, meaning she wasn't physically in the house for a portion of the week, and instead in her place was this Roomba with like some cardboard attached to it and a blinking face. And she could see through the camera in the top of it, and then speak with through a microphone and speakers, and that's how she interacted with people in the house. And it was wild, and honestly, one of the best punishments they've done. A bit brutal for the first week, but it was very funny, and it led to her getting this first power app, the bonus life.
Yeah, it quickly garnered a sympathy edit for her because, there would be moments during the edited shows where she would just be, they would play sad music of Sam just being off on her own in a corner, like outside by herself, just seemingly no one talking to her because, we assumed that she was just away in some side room somewhere on the lot, probably not able to leave the room, just sitting there with a camera that she only had access to at certain times of the day. And so, yeah, I think that was definitely very, very brutal. A lot of fans caught on to that very early on and were very quick to give her some power. And on top of that, her time as a robot did not go without, some drama with the rest of the house guests. Like she got into it with Caitlyn at one point in the storage room. So even Sam's
Caitlyn kind of like walked in on Tyler holding the robot's hands, right? Like,
yes. And she's like, Caitlyn's like trying to like motivate her to do well. Meanwhile, Sam's not looking for motivation. She was just trying to do some quick little one-on-ones with everybody to see how they felt about the nominations at that point in time, and it just goes off on Caitlyn, and it was masterful to watch. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. So she gets the bonus app. In the meantime, Fessy gets the Amazon punishment.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Which was particularly wild because Fessy is Muslim and didn't even eat ham, and so he didn't even end up eating ham at all. Like, of all the ones for him to get, and like, why would you even choose this one? Like, it was a whole thing.
Yeah, didn't they try to get him like vegan ham or something?
I think they did. I think they gave him,
and it was
like,
horrible.
Vegan. Yeah. So that's going on. Funny enough, Fessy, the least trending person of week one, ends up with probably the most extensive reality career post show of anyone on the cast. But as I said, Tyler wins this first HOH, and there's some events going on in week one. First is that the alliance known as Faute forms. 5 of us together to the end. Fight Faute.
Look, I mean, we all, we liked a lot of the people in this alliance, but could quickly see the writing on the wall when that is the best that you can come up with. And not only is that the best you can come up with, but the person that seems to be leading the charge is Caitlyn, of all people. It was doomed to fail.
Yeah, so Faute was an alliance that consisted of, it was the core of what eventually became the Hive, amongst other names. But the core of it was Faute, and because Faute was the most ridiculous name, we just kept calling them Faute long after they had ceased to become Faute. But the basic core of this group was, let me see if I can maybe do this quickly, but it was not Winston. It was Swaggy, Caitlyn.
Yes.
Bailey was not part of it originally.
Right.
But Rockstar was there. Fessy and Haley were the main Faute original people. They end up pulling in Bailey pretty quickly. Swaggy and Bailey connect. and Bailey gets invited. And then sort of over time, Scotty gets involved, loosely enough that it's kind of an issue later. And Summer of Steve himself is not really an official alliance member, but him and Scotty were kind of a duo in the first week. And so him and Scotty were like loose numbers for this group. Now, most importantly, I left somebody out because that's how it's remembered. But there was one other member of this group, of this sphere of influence, of this essentially of the alliance, and that person was Tyler. He was very much invited into this group. He was a part of this group. They thought he was on board, and continue to think he is on board for quite a while. And this is a very important part of, like, a key part of understanding the season, is that they really still feel like Tyler was one of their numbers. And on the other side of things, you had level 6. And so, of course, level 6 was
it was Swaggy. He wishes. Oh my god.
In my head, I keep flipping Winston and Swaggy. I keep forgetting that Swaggy went before Winston. It's wild to me that happened.
I often forget that too. Yeah.
It's Winston. It's Rachel. Just so everyone knows, I'm sure that people who've been watching the retrospectives all season know this, but like when I'm trying to choose the person from the drop down list instead of just cycling through the slideshow, I see the tiniest thumbnail, not enough to know who it is at all. So I'm mostly guessing at who these people are and just trying to think like who's around this time, right? Rachel, it's Brett. Winston and Brett were a bit of a duo. And Angela and Tyler and Casey. So this is level 6. Basically, it's Brett and Winston, a bit of a bro-y duo, and they loop in Angela and Rachel, who are a bit of their own duo, not invited to the big group. And then you had Tyler and Casey, who formed their own duo. They named it Coast to Coast, and they were also invited into this alliance. And so this alliance comes together. Tyler decides, I like these people better than the other people. He had an initial connection to Haley. I remember this being such an interesting thing by the end of the season, that like night one of the feeds was Tyler and Haley like cuddling up. And him being like, hey, we should work together. And then she kind of decided to go in a different direction. He decided to go in a different direction. And then like they have this interesting relationship over the course of the season that just gets kind of further and further away. But they always had that a little bit of a connection. And Tyler decides he'd prefer to work with level 6 generally. Level 6 is also able to pull in through Tyler, Sam. In this first week, Tyler is the person that bonds with her the most, despite being the person that nominates
her ass up.
Yeah. So that's the basic structure of the game. Of course, the one person I haven't mentioned yet is the guy himself, JC, who is not really a part of either side for sure. But he mostly leans level 6, but only because he leans Tyler. Not that he's loyal to level 6 at all, but he is loyal to Tyler. And that means that he is often helping out level 6 more often than he's helping out like the Hive or Faute. So very important piece as well. Tyler and JC are the two main factors as to why this season plays out the way that it does. The level of mind effery that goes on from them to Faute really does quite a number on them.
Yeah, it's Tyler's really the nucleus of everything going on here. He's got two major alliances on his side, and then he also has, what is it at this point, 3 or 4 duo type deals going on. One with Casey.
He originally had one with Haley, but that broke apart. But then he had Casey, he had JC. He eventually gets Brett. He obviously eventually gets Angela. He also has a bit of a relationship with Swaggy himself. He has a good relationship with Bailey. There's just obviously Caitlyn, Sam, like so many individual. Tyler was such an individual relationship kind of player, and it was very interesting to watch.
Yeah. He was very much a busy body in the beginning of this season, and he was able to do it in a way that was very covert. He was very active about not like keeping his cards as close to the chest as possible and trying not to let anybody really know what was going on, with the exception maybe of level 6 and Casey. He seemed to really come alive during those game conversations. And not to say that he couldn't talk in with anybody else, because he most certainly was. But, you know, if you were watching feeds, you could really tell that this was the group that he was the most invested in. And this, I think, is when a lot of the conversation around like, it's way too many plates. It's too many plates. He's spending too much. He's already HOH, and now he's promised half the damn house is safe. Like, there is no way that he is going to be able to keep this up. And the only reason that he even he had an easy out in putting Sam up on the block, because it's easy to say, oh, well, you were a robot, didn't get a chance to talk to you. But no, he was still talking to her too, and holding her virtual hand in the storage room. So it was just, there was a lot going on with this man's game, and it was very hard to tell whether or not he was the type of player to really be able to handle all of that, or if he wasn't. So,
yeah. The first week is interesting. As you mentioned, Tyler nominates Sam and Steve. 2 easy nominations. Steve, the oldest person there. Summer of Steve being the classic. And Sam, who is the robot. And it was just your classic week 1 easy nominations. Swaggy is going to try to convince Tyler to do something bigger with the veto. Fessy wins the veto. They can use the veto. They can take out a bigger threat like Angela, Brett, Winston. By the point the veto is played, the lines are a little more clear. At least that's what, Swaggy and Faute think. And so, there's this kind of push, like, let's make a bigger play. Tyler does not capitulate to this. And this is key to again, what happens throughout the entire season, which is that in many of these situations, the player who wins this HOH concedes to the desire of the majority. They say, well, I'm included in the majority alliance. I don't want to piss anybody off. I'm going to do what they say. They're going to take me in. It's going to be fine. Tyler doesn't do that. He doesn't declare war. In fact, he tries to take a middle ground that is pretty difficult to manage. But he basically says, no, I'm not going to take that shot. I don't want to get that much blood on my hands. Sorry. And says, if Fessy uses the veto, I'm going to put up Bailey. Because he knows that Bailey is Swaggy's number 1 at this point, but not officially part of the grouping that Tyler was ostensibly supposed to be a part of. And so it's kind of a little bit of an out, like Bailey's the next best person to put up, because we all know we're voting out Sam. So if you use the veto, that's what I'm going to do. Sorry about it. You just have to deal with it. And yeah, it kind of annoyed Faute, but at the end of the day, Tyler was the HOH, and they had to accept it. And there were a bunch of other people that they had to deal with before they could deal with Tyler. And so Tyler sets this precedent that he is going to do, he's not necessarily going to do what they want. And yet, you'd think, well, they never think they can convince Tyler to do anything. Yet, throughout the whole season, people are consistently going to feel like they can convince Tyler to do things. And we'll maybe get into a little bit about why that is as we move forward. But ultimately, Fessy and Swaggy back down. Yeah. They do not use the veto. And so Sam and Steve are up for eviction in week 1. And here's the thing. Faute has the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
If they choose, they can vote out Sam. Now, Sam will not be out for good because she has the power app. And so all she'll need to do is put a little puzzle together and she'll be right back in the game. But it will essentially nullify Tyler's HOH and prevent his side from taking one of the Faute numbers down. And so that would not be good. So Aman, how do you solve this? Your side doesn't have the numbers. How do you win this vote?
Good old fashioned line and manipulation. And go into the weakest link in an alliance.
Yeah. The answer to Tyler's problems was not Bailey. It was not Rachel. It was Caitlin Herman. As we said, he developed a good relationship with Sam. Tyler was just a person who was very good at developing these individual relationships, especially with people who like wouldn't otherwise necessarily, like Sam wouldn't otherwise necessarily be like a super big game player. Tyler was able to bond with Sam anyway. He was also able to bond with people who were big game players. And he was able to bond with people who were kind of both. And Caitlin was kind of both. And, you know, he knew what buttons to push with Caitlin. Yep. He knew what things to write on her arm. And so he basically pulls off this wild move that we just don't see that often in Big Brother, where he goes to Caitlin at the last minute and says, hey, you need to switch your vote. If you don't, we're screwed. You're screwed. Because, you know, power apps. Mm-hmm. And she's like, what? And she runs and she's talking to Rockstar and Haley. And she's like, what's going on? Why am I supposed to do this? And they're like, no, don't do this. And she goes back to Tyler and he's like, no, I'm telling you, it's not going to work. If you vote this way, it's not going to happen. Basically using this like mystical power that Sam has told him about, the only person she's told, to convince her. Now, the words he's saying don't really matter. The point is he's just saying, you have to trust me, you have to do this. One of the reasons why Caitlin is the best person for him to go to is that despite being a core part of the original alliance, she has been burned a little bit by them because Haley and Fessy have gotten really close. She initially kind of, you know, I won't say thought she had a thing with Fessy, but like definitely was turned off by the fact that Fessy was going to like get into a relationship with Haley. At the very least, it was like, well, how is my game relationship going to be really tight with you if you're closer to Haley? You guys are in like bed together. Like what are we doing? And at the same time, Fessy is going off with Bailey, and it's like, well, now they're together. And so where does that leave Caitlin? She ends up kind of talking to Tyler a lot, who again is supposed to kind of be on their side. Remember this. This is not Tyler on the other side. This is not Maggie saying to Howie, you need to do this. This is this is like James saying to Howie, like, hey, we should do this. I'm on your side. And so she's convinced that she needs to vote this way. Tyler sets up like a whole signal, like if we have the votes, my hair will be down, I think. If we don't, my hair will be up. And they had the votes. And so by a vote of 7-13, with that one vote being the thing that does it, Summer of Steve is the first person evicted in the first of many blindsides of Big Brother 20.
Flipping like a Krabby Patty, man. Like just got in her head. He does that thing with which I'm sure to this day Angela would refer to as crazy eyes, where he walks up to Caitlin, is like, gets very wide eyes, like, look, we got to start thinking about something else. And again, this is when a lot of people are having conversations about, like, he is doing a lot right now. Like, this is spending a lot of energy that I don't know if it's the right way to go. And especially with Caitlyn, we already know that she's a little volatile. Why do you think that she won't just spill the beans on you and say that this all came from you? A lot of people were still kind of like, oh, Tyler, this is a little much for week one. Especially since you are the HOH and you're safe. But, you know, he knew that he didn't have a shot of winning the HOH next week. So he wanted to make sure that he was putting his alliance in the best position possible to move forward. And he did what he had to do, and he chose the right one that day. He did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the question kind of burns amongst Faute. Who flipped? Because we had the votes and all of a sudden we didn't. And they didn't think it would be 7-6. They thought it would be near unanimous. And they thought if it came down to it, we have JC, we have Caitlyn, we have, we have all of these people. And then the vote came in and it was 7-6. And they were like, who did this? And of course, it's very easy to figure out afterward that Caitlyn was at least one of those votes, but that doesn't solve the whole issue because there's still other people out there that they don't know about. And of course, the main one being JC, who is able to avoid detection expertly throughout the first half of this season. He is he is gleeful as he stirs up chaos and initiates the witch hunt for who these votes are when it was him all along. And like Tyler, you might say, why is he doing so much? He's going to get himself caught. And yet he is never caught at all. These people go to their graves thinking that they betrayed each other when it was JC all along. We talked a lot about, especially toward the end of the season, the world where JC was not as loyal to Tyler and was playing a bit more for himself, or maybe even just the world where he was a bit more capable or just had straight up won the final 3 HOH. JC is very much, I think, your easy winner of Big Brother 20 and probably very deservedly so.
Yeah, and at this time he's starting to, I think this is when he's with Tyler in the beginning, and then he sort of begins to sort of go off and create other relationships, most notably with Fessy throughout the rest of the season, where, he does sort of make himself a bit of an asset to level 6 without being in level 6, because he's able to understand what it is that is motivating Fessy and Fessy's side of things. And how can he use that to his advantage? And there's so much else going on with the manipulation that is being controlled largely by level 6 and specifically Tyler a lot of the time, that Fessy can't tell which way or the other. It being JC that's being the one that is leaking info from him, it doesn't even cross his mind. It literally, it's like JC is too small to even see in the scope of threat for him.
Yes. So with Faute in chaos, Caitlyn wins the next HOH. And
oh, what a doozy. Oh my God.
Tyler says, oh boy, I thought that was a one-time deal to get her to flip. Turns out I need to keep pressing this advantage. Yeah. And so he stays up in bed with her and says, we need to take down Swaggy because Swaggy's the one that's ruining the alliance. And, he's so mad at you for the vote flip and all of these things. Again, the logic, Tyler was not a player. We talked about this a lot, and this is one of my favorite things to say. So I apologize if you've heard it before. Yeah. But Tyler is the opposite of Vanessa. Vanessa played the game not through the relationships she built, but through the arguments she could make, the logic, the incentives, the game theory, the tying people in knots and convincing them that the only way forward was the way that she proposed. Tyler was the opposite. Tyler would just say nonsense all the time. He didn't work through logic. He worked through relationships, emotional manipulation. And He just said whatever he needed to say, just the words that came out of his mouth, but with the purpose of, hey, Caitlyn, you need to work with me here. I think the best play is to take a shot at Swaggy. And she said, sure, that makes sense.
And it's, it's so defensive too, because, obviously Swaggy came to him the week prior trying to make something happen with this veto. He, does the rigmarole to get things to go the way that he wants them to go, but he knows that, well, at least he suspects that a player like Swaggy is probably not going to let that go. He's just going to continue to press the issue, and eventually you can only say no to someone you're supposed to be in an alliance with so many times before that person is like, okay, well then you can go. So before that even can happen, he's like, let's just go ahead and nip this in the bud right now. And Caitlyn, yeah, you might have to think about throwing him up, because, like, remember how he was just kind of pissed off at you and he was doubting that you voted to keep Steve here? Yeah, like, he's going around and telling the whole alliance and the whole house that you're untrustworthy. So yeah, we might need to just go ahead and get rid of this right now and just, like, get in bed with her, which is something that he is going to pay for later, because she does not leave his side for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So he ends up getting the power app this week. He's rewarded for the bold gameplay he showed off in the first week. The audience is digging it. He gets a power app that is not relevant. The cloud app, it will keep him safe from a nomination ceremony or renom. So there was this weird thing where basically he would want to make sure to save it for the renom and not the initial nom. And so there was theoretically incentive for him to say, please backdoor me. But it really just didn't end up mattering at all.
And see, this I think is when I truly became a fan of Tyler, because everybody knows, like, notoriously my favorite players of all time are one, Davon Rogers and Tyler Crispin. But I think that this is when I was like, okay, I like this person, because there are so many times in the game of Big Brother or in the game of Survivor where someone will gain an advantage, and literally 2 scenes later, they're like, okay, well, in an effort to build a relationship and to show that I'm trustworthy, I'm going to tell this. Tyler said, no, fuck, excuse me. He said, no, none of that. I am not telling a soul about this power. This is only for me. I need to be able to control this information. I'm already good with a lot of the house. There's no reason for me to tell anybody about this power. And he held on to this to the point where even the audience, we did not know who won it. And we wanted him or someone to say, hey, to the cameras, I won. And we just could not figure it out until it aired. And I was like, I love that, because this person is really, really interested in being able to control as much information in the house as possible. And that was when I was like, I was fully in. I was fully in after that.
Yeah. So with this power up again, it doesn't really end up mattering, but the plan goes through. And Caitlyn, with the help of Tyler, backdoors Swaggy. And I, to this day, I think this is one of the best backdoor episodes. Swaggy is blindsided, and you just feel it. You feel for him. You just like, this guy was here to play. He was working with his people. He's been betrayed from the inside. And there's some comeuppance, he was definitely overconfident. But it was so visceral. It just like really to Caitlyn. And also now, like, he had gotten in so good with Bailey. They were developing this relationship, and I'm sure that was part of it too. It was a great blindside. And ultimately, despite putting up an effort here, he ends up being evicted over Winston. Now, important to note, Tyler used the veto not on Winston, but on Scotty. who was not a part of level 6. He left Winston up on the block, this time again leading to a close vote, this one 8-12, which well, it shouldn't have even been that close, but Scotty decided to talk about that.
Yeah, okay, buddy.
But basically, again, just a small move here, but by using it on Scotty, Tyler was still maintaining distance from his association with Winston and Brett and level 6. He was like, hey, I am, I'm with Caitlyn maybe, but I'm not with level 6. And that's important because the following week it's very important. And he also is going to develop this plan that I don't remember what he called it. I think it was like Operation Scotty's My Best Friend or something. But basically, he tried to fake a relationship with Scotty in order to make Scotty seem less trustworthy to the side that Scotty really was on. And that doesn't have a lot of immediate ramifications, but it definitely helps out later when wild things happen. So,
and Scotty doesn't do himself any favors by continuously doing all of these rogue votes and just, out here just saying, like, you're actively eating your own alliance alive, and the same thing eventually is going to happen to you. So it's just it was a whole hodgepodge of mess. But yeah, Swaggy, this is another week where I was like, we were riding this season. We were just like, this is some good ass BB, because I'll never forget, like, after she decides to put him up, and then he goes up to her room. She's up in bed, like curled up under Tyler, who's consoling her, and Swaggy sits right down on the bed and is like, look, like, Caitlyn, I don't know what's going on, but don't do this. Like, don't do this. Like, I've been honest with you about my background. Like, you know where I come from. You know what the type of situation that I'm trying to leave. Like, this game is like my shot at like making things right with my life and everything. And Tyler does not leave Caitlyn's side the whole time. And I'm like, the tension is so thick because he doesn't even know that Tyler's the one that did this. And it's just so, it was so riveting to watch.
Yeah. And I apologize. I think I've been saying like 7 or 8-12, 8 of 12 votes is what I meant. 8-4, 12 votes total. So yes, the vote is in place. They have the votes because JC is flipping. And basically with JC, with Tyler, with all of these things as well, they have the votes. But and again, this is partially due to JC. Scotty decides to throw a rogue vote for Swaggy to leave, wearing the Swaggy C T-shirt.
So just,
and so. He is shocked to discover I just voted in the majority. Swaggy's gone. What? And he's gonna get a lot of heat for this because he's like, oh well, I might have done that. And they're like, are you kidding me? And they don't believe that he did it accidentally because that doesn't happen on Big Brother.
Right.
And so with him admitting to that, now they're considering, did he vote for Steve too? Was he the one that did that? And so now they're all turning on Scotty. But then Scotty wins the HOH. And it's like, oh, well, I guess we're not mad at Scotty anymore.
Yep.
At least to his face. Who else flipped? Let's figure that out. And of course, JC is leading the charge. Was it Fessy? No, Fessy's asking who flipped. Could it have been Rockstar? Could it have been Rockstar? I don't know. And they're just eating themselves alive and essentially kind of leaving Scotty to his own devices, because it's like, Scotty can't feel super comfortable with this group because they're pretty mad at him and they're trying to hide it, but he can kind of sense that they're kind of mad at him. Yeah. There's some reason to believe that they can get Scotty to take a shot at his own alliance because they've turned on him, but Scotty is not quite that gullible, and he does shoot somewhat correctly at least, at Brett and Winston. And he also wins the veto and ensures that one of them is going to go home. But there's more happening here. First of which is Bailey gets the third and final power app. This one has a bit of an influence over the game, not in the way that I think was intended, but basically this is a coup d'etat, just a full-on coup d'etat. She can secretly replace the HOH without them knowing. I believe that they could still control the renoms, so she didn't have like full control. But as long as the veto winner didn't use it, she just fully had her own HOH, and it was a very powerful power.
And I liked this. I liked what was going on with a lot of these power ups because it really felt like the audience really just wanted the best show as much as possible. You know, obviously the underdog ended with Sam, and then a little bit of like, we're gonna reward Tyler for like this crazy gameplay that he's got going on right now. Oh, it's like, oh, now we kind of feel bad about how things went down with Swaggy C. So let's go ahead and give Bailey something just to, you know, give her an extra shot in this game. We just wanted we just wanted to keep everything churning. And about Scotty, about what you were talking about before, yes, I love the fact that he did decide to stick to his guns and sort of like stick with the alliance that he was initially with, even though this really is the beginning of Scotty starting to really kind of like silo himself off because of his own antics. And so like when things, and we'll eventually talk about it, when things start to go very much more awry with his alliance, and he sort of like wants to own this narrative of like, everyone in my alliance is stupid. I'm like, yeah, but you kind of started it too, buddy. Like, you weren't that much better. Like, this whole thing is a mess, and you're a part of the blame. It's just a mess.
Yeah. So with Brett and Winston on the block, the idea was from Faute, because once again, they should have the numbers to decide which one of them goes home. They decided they wanted to send Brett home. Brett was the bigger threat in competitions. Winston was really striking out in competitions.
Yeah.
And Brett was just more social, and they didn't like Brett very much. He was pretty annoying to them. And so they had the vote. So obviously they're going to be able to vote Brett out, except, oh, why is Winston on my screen? Because of course they didn't have the votes. JC continues to screw up their plans. And one more time, it's going to be a 6-5 vote with JC as the sole swing vote to secretly flip this vote, blindside the other side, keep Brett in the game. And of course, this time around, they're experts at this point. They have blindsided the other side the third time in a row. JC is doing extra prep work ahead of time this time to try to ensure that other people get blamed for this. Even Brett himself is going to stand up and talk about like how he's got a secret deal with Rockstar. And of course, Rockstar on her daughter's birthday, this happens.
I can't believe on my daughter's birthday that you would drag my name through the mud like this. You are disgusting. Do you understand? You are a bold-faced disgusting. I haven't talked to you in 3 days. You didn't campaign me. I cannot. Then don't.
They thought they believed that it was fake. They thought she was faking it, that maybe she really does have a secret deal with him.
Oh my God, it was
and he's just own it. Just own it. Come on, I know you voted for me to stay. Just own it.
You even own it?
Disgusting. I mean, at this point, we were just like, what have we done to please the gods? Like, this is incredible television. This doesn't happen in Big Brother. It is totally unique.
They have 3 blindsides in a row.
3 blindsides in a row for half the house. And it was the same side getting blindsided every time.
Same side.
They couldn't figure out who the leak was, who
blindsiding
the was.
Themselves within a blindside. Like, there's layers to this shit. It's like, it's every eviction is like someone just takes the table and just flips it over. And the minute that they are about to put everything back together, it just gets flipped again. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. So so things are a little tricky here. That they blindside the other side again, and remember now, like Caitlyn has kind of reintegrated with Faute. She turned on Swaggy, but with Scotty winning and Scotty doing his own thing, it kind of gave them time to get back into bed with Caitlyn, because they didn't think that she was malicious. They just thought she was kind of a bit of a wild card. And they still kind of trusted Tyler because they didn't see Tyler as somebody manipulating the wild card. They saw Tyler as the person who was being manipulated by the wild card, Caitlyn. And so they saw Tyler and Caitlyn as a bit of a duo that were still loosely attached to their group. And they couldn't anticipate the fact that Tyler and Caitlyn were voting separately, and that JC was voting separately from Fessy, and all of these things. And so obviously Scotty is a rat, and obviously somebody else must have flipped. Maybe it was Rockstar, because she doesn't have a duo. And so all of this is happening, and that brings it to Sam's HOH week, when after Winston is voted out. Winston, he will go on to be in like 2 episodes of Love Island in the US, and I don't think it went well for him. But
I was like, are you about to say he's went on to better things? Because I was like, honey, no.
Sam wins the next HOH. And so I think we need to like have a serious conversation about Sam. Because when Sam was introduced, she was the robot. It was cute. It was funny. We felt bad for her. She ends up making this nice bond with Tyler. They help pull off this big blindside. She's theoretically working with Tyler. He's maintaining this relationship with her to some degree. But it all was not as it seemed with Sam. Over the course of a few weeks, she kind of continued to remain isolated. We thought it was due to the robot, and maybe it was, but she never really reintegrated into the house. She maintained a lot of distance, and she really only talked much game with Tyler. And Tyler was busy because he was busy with Caitlyn, and he was busy with JC, and he was busy with Bailey, and he was busy with like dealing with all of these other things. And so he wasn't spending as much time with Sam. And Sam really did not like the people who seemingly were getting in the way of her relationship with Tyler, it kind of felt. When she won the HOH, Tyler discovered that he did not quite have as much influence over her as he thought. But she was still doing something that was fine, because she ultimately targets the other side. She puts up Haley and Caitlyn. And let me tell you, for as much as Caitlyn has been a benefit to Tyler in the sense that she is making moves for him and is acting as a shield for him, Tyler is exhausted. He cannot continue to deal and maintain that relationship with Caitlyn for the life of him. And so he is feeling pretty okay with the idea that Caitlyn might be voted out here, and he can kind of like drop that plate finally.
And I mean, this is what you run the risk of doing whenever it is that your game is like this, where it is very much dependent on a lot of these one-on-one relationships that you have created. One of these plates could have a lot of stuff on it, okay? And you either drop it or you put in a lot of extra time holding that one up and letting the other ones go. And I think a lot of the audience, ones that were beginning to sour over Tyler's game at the time, were like, yeah, that's what you get, bruh. That's what you get. You thought you were going to be over here and have this easy street manipulating everybody, and now this girl is attached to your hip. Now you can't even get your entire way with Sam. And, and I don't even know if that's really too much of Tyler's fault, really, because Sam, she was not here to play the same game that anybody was here to play. She barely wanted to be there half the time. And when she was there, she was determined to just do things her own way. She didn't even, when she became HOH, she didn't want anybody talking to her because she was like, I'm determined. I don't want anybody trying to change my mind. I have an idea of what I'm going to do. I know who I'm going to put up. I've been watching everybody. I don't like how some of these people have been behaving. That's how I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to be doing what's best for everybody. So screw you if you think that you're going to try to change my mind. And that was for Tyler. That was for anybody. So really, like, I think that Sam is just always going to be a wild card, no matter how much time you put into her. Now, better a wild card that at least isn't looking at you. And I think that that's as much as Tyler is able to do. But yeah, she's just she's quite the character, one that we have since never been able to replicate and probably never will.
Yeah, and so it got weird. And it'll continue to get weirder with Sam. But when she nominates Haley and Caitlyn, she says something along the lines of like, you know, I think you need to treat the men of the house with more respect. I think what you're doing is the opposite of female empowerment. And then is saying like that they are trying to manipulate the young men of the house with their flirting and their hugging and massaging. And it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Where did this come from?
Yeah, it was there was a lot going on, and we saw little bits and pieces of this frame of mind, especially harkening back to the conversation when she's a robot in the storage room and she makes that quip at Caitlyn about like, oh, well, if you were a robot, you wouldn't be able to get into the hot tub with Fessy like you be doing. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, or so are you trying to get into the hot tub with Fessy? Like, what's going on here? So there was a lot of conversation about whether or not is this like jealousy talking because maybe she's crushing on some of these dudes and they're not giving her the attention that she wants. Does she really truly feel this way and feel like the girls are being a little bit too manipulative to some of these men? And I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to really gauge where Sam's head really was, but all we needed to know was that she'd had enough of it. She wanted Tyler and Fessy to stand up for themselves and whoever else in the house stand up for themselves. And she has had it with Haley and Caitlyn's feminine wiles. Okay.
Yeah. So Fessy ends up winning this veto and saving Caitlyn, saving Haley. And Haley's
chagrin.
Yeah, exactly. And this was there was so much drama around this triangle of Haley, Caitlyn, and Fessy. And when he wins this veto and has to choose to save one of them, oh boy.
It's because I mean, and Fessy messed up here, like because he told both of them that he would save them. Like, why would you tell your girlfriend and your side piece that they're both the men? Like, what's going on here, buddy? Like, it was a lot, and of course, you know, Caitlyn is so intense in interrogating him. She's like, wait, did you tell her that you would save her? And basically wore him down into admitting it. And she's like, oh my god, I literally can't, like, Fessy, like I can't believe, like, it was just a whole saga. And Fessy's just sitting there like, well, you know, I haven't made a decision yet. I just got to go with what's, you know, best for my game. And, you know, we'll see what happens. Like, it's just a mess.
She was amazing to watch on the show and the feeds. It was incredible. So Caitlyn and Rockstar as the replacement for Haley are now on the block together. I remember this week talking a lot about how it felt like Caitlyn and Rockstar were in a competition to see who could get themselves voted out, because the vote kept flipping back and forth between the two of them, because basically, like, the vote would be locked on Caitlyn leaving, and then Rockstar would do something, and everyone would be like, oh, wait, I guess we need to vote out Rockstar. But then Caitlyn would do something and be like, actually, no, of course we need to vote out Caitlyn. But then Rockstar would do something, and it flipped back. And it was just like every time they tried to campaign, they just flipped the vote onto themselves. And it was a bit of chaos, but eventually it landed on Caitlyn. And JC was, again, a huge part of why. He more than almost anyone, really wanted Caitlyn gone. There were so many people that wanted Caitlyn gone because so many people wanted to work with Tyler, and they thought that Tyler was too tied up with Caitlyn, the person manipulating him. Everyone wanted to be the person manipulating Tyler, and they felt like if they could get rid of Caitlyn, who was a wild card to begin with, then they could be the person who managed to manipulate and grab the wounded bird, Tyler. And so this ultimately lands on Caitlyn. There are a couple other things, though, in this week that are important to note. One of which is that JC himself was nearly the replacement nominee.
Oh, yeah.
When basically the plan was for JC to be the replacement nominee for Sam. Sam was about to nominate him, and he essentially just went, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she changed her mind
in
the moment.
Yeah, I don't think we really see that happen a lot. Like sort of like a real-time nomination shift like that in the middle of a ceremony. But it was very interesting to watch. Because this, like, JC never really had that much of a brush with danger before, and there he is right there, like, staring danger in the face. And at that point, Sam and JC, start, because like you said before, Sam kind of was isolating herself, but she did have relationships with Casey at this time, with Bailey at this time, with Tyler, and now with JC. The two of them would really kind of just go back and forth with each other. And so putting him up always, to me, always felt like, I understand your frame of mind, because Sam doesn't really think about the game in the same way that we do. She was very much like, I don't really want to play this game, and I also don't really want to piss people off. But like, I feel like if I put JC up, he's not gonna be mad at me because JC's my buddy. It's like, no, he is going to be mad at you if you put him up. So like, putting him up was always like just odd to me. But I'm glad that she came to her senses. It was like, okay, well, fine, you can go up then. It's fine. Like, Sam is just not here for the game, y'all. She really wasn't.
So yes, that happens. And then the other part of this is that the entire week we were like, yeah, the vote is flipping back and forth, but none of this matters. We were like, what a dumb twist this is, because it's being forced to be played. Because remember, Sam has the bonus life app, and the bonus life app means that if you're voted out, you are going to have a chance. And we all knew that a chance meant, obviously, they'll make an easy challenge or something that they don't want the thing to fail. So a chance means you're basically just guaranteed to stay in the game. So Sam, if she were to be voted out, could play the bonus life and then stay in the game, essentially. But the twist of this was that if it wasn't used by week 4, it would be automatically played, forced to be played. And then Sam herself won the week 4 HOH. We're like, why would you even win this one to begin with? Yeah. You know that whoever you evict, example of how poorly these twists are thought out. But at the very least, it's happening to Sam at this point, given her motivations.
I think to remember, she thought that if she won this HOH, that it would just go away. I remember her like being on the feeds thinking like, oh, well, there's no, like, I won. So then I don't have to worry about it. Nobody else has to worry about it. Cause I remember her like sort of like throwing a fit, and she was pissed with production when this still was going to happen. Cause she was like, why are we still dealing with this? Like, it was my power, and now you just gave it to somebody else. That doesn't make any sense.
Tyler was like, why did you win?
Like, it's like, you could have saved this.
She was like, no, this works. Yeah. So the vote lands on Caitlyn, and power app is played. Caitlyn
and she knew it was coming
in the game.
The histrionics of it all, like it's just like, she collapses to her knees. I'm like, girl, bitch, if you don't get up, you knew this was coming.
This is incredible television. This is the, I would say, the climax of the first half of the season. We still get some good stuff moving forward, but and then once the hacker app is introduced, things really slow down. But this is the pinnacle. This is Caitlyn is saved by the power app. All she needs to do is complete a little puzzle in just a couple of minutes, and she will be safe. And I don't care how many times you've watched this, it's compelling every single time. because she panics and she is putting this puzzle together and it's nearly there, but she cannot manage to like set it in place properly. She doesn't have like a good base and the time is ticking down. And all of a sudden you're like, is she going to not do this? Surely that's impossible, right? Like they don't make twists. Like when they brought Paul into the game, they knew that one person was going to accept the like 20K bribe. And yet the time continues to tick down and she does not complete the puzzle. And this is the biggest blindside of the entire season for the audience because we'd been expecting Caitlyn would stick around the whole time, and now all of a sudden she's gone just like that. Rob was blanketing in mourning.
Yeah, you know, those just like epic moments in history, like or epic moments caught on live television that the entire nation, sometimes the entire world just seems to be at a standstill watching together, experiencing it together. This is what that felt like for me as a Big Brother fan. It was just, you could not believe it. You couldn't take your eyes away. Like, and don't even get me started about like what was going on online. Just like there were rumblings of like, you know, Alison Grodner just looking at her camera feed in disbelief that this was going to happen because, you know, as polarizing as Caitlyn was, she really is what made Big Brother 20 in the first half the season that it is known for today. Yes, there are other power players that be, you know, Tyler being one of them, but Caitlyn was the driving force behind a lot of the shenanigans and chicanery that was going on with this season. And to watch her utterly flame out, there is no better ending for her. Honestly, I'm quite glad that she went out in this way because I don't know what a post-jury Caitlyn Herman looks like on Big Brother 20. I honestly don't know, and I don't really care to know because this was absolutely amazing to watch. I could not to this day, all she had to do was slam the legs of the puzzle together. Then everything else will fall into place on top. And the fact that there was a moment in time where she had like 20 seconds left. That is more than enough time. And she gave up. She gave up. It was just, and then everybody downstairs is like cheering her on, saying, "Don't give up. You can still win. You can still win. You can still win."
Yeah. Wild.
And I just, it was what, 6 pieces? 6 pieces. Just amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. So Caitlyn's gone just like that. And
it was of her. It was her. It was you. It was you. And you couldn't put yourself back together again. That is so Caitlyn. She's a mess. Okay, I'm done.
With Caitlyn gone, Bailey wins the next HOH. And we've been tracking Bailey. Bailey has this power app. Caitlyn's actually gone, which is kind of great for Bailey, actually, because it kind of clears up the board a little bit. You know, it basically just needs to get through this week, maintain the relationships she has, take out one of the level sixers, and she could be in a good spot because she's developed a good relationship with Casey. She's developed a good relationship with Rachel to some degree. And she's been working on, you know, she's working on this relationship with Tyler. Like, she's in a good spot. And then the following week, she has the power app. Like, she's in positions to be able to really set the game up in her favor. Mm-hmm. And this is when things go terribly wrong because she just kind of got lost a little bit. It was a little bit of HOH-itis, a little bit of like, again, a little bit of overconfidence. And she started kind of just sharing too much, including the fact that she had the power app. She started trying to work these relationships a little too hard with Rachel and Angela. And she kind of just got caught doing a lot of the things she was trying to do. She really felt like she could leave Tyler alone because she thought that without Caitlyn there to manipulate Tyler, he was a wounded bird and that she could pull him in. And at this time, you had people like Haley and Rockstar going, I'm not so sure about Tyler. Because remember, they're the ones that Caitlyn went to in week 1 when Tyler was trying to convince her to flip the vote. And Caitlyn was saying to them, hey, Tyler's trying to get me to flip this vote. And then she ended up flipping and had a different story. But they remembered that initial story of like Tyler might have been behind that. And they were looking at Tyler, and Rockstar was calling him, he could be Palpatine.
Oh, like, yeah, I forgot about that.
He could be secretly the mastermind behind all of this. And people were like, whoa, is Rockstar onto this? Like, is Rockstar on top of this?
Oh, Rockstar Wars, yes.
And the problem was that in the next breath, she'd go, or maybe it's Brett, or maybe it's Angela, or maybe, or maybe Haley's betraying me. And it was like, oh, okay, she's throwing out a lot of things. But the Tyler thing was right. But Bailey didn't believe it. Bailey had a good relationship with Tyler, and she felt like she could play into this group of people, nominate Rachel and have her have that cake and eat it too. Develop a good relationship with Rachel, nominate her and still have her as an ally coming out of it. Trust her with some information. Rachel then spills the information thinking, I'm going to tell my alliance, obviously. Then the alliance realizes Bailey's trying to work Rachel. Brett is a bigger target for the other side. Obviously, we should keep Brett around over Rachel. She had nominated Brett next to Rachel. And they, again, blindside the other side of the house, including Bailey herself, by evicting Rachel over Brett. Rachel leaves to quite a nasty goodbye message from Angela, because again, there was this narrative being crafted that Rachel had been betraying the alliance because she was going to be going and working with Bailey, and that's why one of the reasons why they needed to take Rachel out. And so Angela gives this goodbye message that's kind of wild, and Rachel says, "What's wrong with Angela?"
Yeah. Rachel did not deserve the way that she went out. Did she, maybe get a little bit too paranoid with what was going on? Sure. But anybody would be, given that, your alliance is in power for so long, and then the next thing you know, you're up on the block. And it's not as if, level 6 hasn't been on the block together and it didn't go the way that maybe you wanted it to go in the beginning. So I would be nervous too. And this whole thing with Angela, I was like, everyone was like, hold on, sis. Not too much, because she called Rachel irrelevant in week 2. I'm like, and what do you think you were, honey? Where is all this energy coming from? And it was just such an interesting thing from her, because it kept going after that. It was she would find these moments to have these very uncharismatic come up in speeches, and I'm like, sis, what have you been doing this whole time? It was very, very strange. So I felt for Rachel in that moment, because she was like, I thought we were friends. What did I do? I didn't do anything to you.
Mm-hmm. So Rachel's gone, and the jury is going to start. And Bailey's been blindsided. The Faute side has been blindsided yet again. And Angela wins the next HOH, but there's a twist, the hacker twist. The BB hacker, whatever they call it. And what this does is it's another competition that's played out during the week. The winner of the competition gets to name a third nominee. There's more than just that too. It's they can they can they replace a nominee, right? They take somebody
Yes.
down, they replace that nominee. They can also select somebody in like the veto competition, and they can like nullify a vote or something. And so this is just a terrible twist. It's just a terrible twist. It's a bad twist.
Yeah.
Angela nominates Rockstar and Scotty. With now because level 6 knows about Bailey's hacker, or sorry, not hacker power, her power app, they are looking to potentially backdoor Bailey, but they know they need to do it very carefully because Bailey can take over the HOH powers. So they can't nominate Bailey initially. They have to keep Bailey very comfortable, and kind of like give this illusion of like, hey, we'll be targeting like Scotty or Rockstar, two of the people that you're suspicious of anyway. So it works. Bailey does not use her power. And then Haley wins the hacker competition. And
Yep.
Haley decides to replace Scotty with Tyler. Remember,
Yeah.
Haley's been suspicious of Tyler. She kind of feels like Tyler's a good person to throw up there. Now, this gives level 6 the excuse, the reason, as Vanessa might say, to then backdoor Bailey when Angela wins the veto, uses it on Tyler, and puts Bailey on the block. They were going to do this anyway. They wanted to do this because they knew Bailey had the power. However, they were able to, they didn't want to say that they knew that ahead of time because that would reveal that they've been planning this all along, and they're trying to act like they're always just trying to trick the other side. And so instead they say, well, we think that Bailey's the hacker. We think that Bailey put up Tyler. And so because of that, we are going to, like, Bailey's going to be nominated. Bailey's eventually going to be evicted. And so with all of that, Haley is like, oh my God, I got Bailey in trouble because I put up Tyler, and now they're blaming Bailey for it. And so Haley's like, I need to confess. I need to tell everyone that I was the hacker and not Bailey. So Haley tells everyone I was the hacker. And Bailey's like, I can't believe you would do this to me, Haley. and Haley's like, I'm sorry. I thought I was going to do something good, and I'm trying to take ownership of it. And then everyone else is like, do we even believe Haley? Because again, they didn't care. They just knew that she had the power app. And there's so much drama happening. Bailey gets very mad at Tyler. Everyone's mad that Tyler was up in the first place. And it's just chaos.
Yeah, this is there's a lot going on. I mean, this was another one of those moments for Big Brother 20 that sparked a lot of debate on, whose side of the argument do you sympathize with more? Because like, the whole reason that Bailey got lulled into a sense of security not to use her power is because of the leverage that the leverage that Tyler had over her, and like using his relationship with her to sort of make her feel like, things are going to be good. We're not coming after you. You're good. Like, even though this whole thing with Rachel happened, like, everything's going to be fine. And then the next thing you know, she's getting tossed up. Angela once again is doing one of these lame ass speeches about like, oh, well, Bailey, sit your ass down on the block. And then when she confronts everyone saying like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not the hacker. I didn't do this. And then Tyler, with sunglasses on and this very petulant attitude, which maybe you interpreted as he's just trying to put on this performance for the whole house and also for the rest of his alliance, that like, yeah, Bailey, I know you're the hacker, even if he doesn't necessarily believe it because it doesn't really matter. They were going to do it anyway. They just want the power gone. I think that this is when there are some people that weren't really big fans of Tyler. This was like, okay, yeah, we're done with you, bro, because like, you're doing a lot here. Like, you've been smiling in Bailey's face this entire time. You did the whole wounded bird thing when she was HOH. Now all of a sudden you're like, Bailey has to go. She's the devil. She has a power that I want fleshed out. I need her gone. And on top of that, you're rubbing salt in the wound by being extra mean about it when you know, and then it gets revealed through this house meeting that Haley calls that she's actually not the hacker, which yes, we know it's all irrelevant, but then it just turns into like this big screaming match because Bailey's like, all I really wanted was an apology because I've been walking around the house, everybody thinking that I'm after them and that I'm like enemy numero uno when I didn't do anything. Like, yeah, maybe I was targeting Angela. Yeah, sure. But like, I didn't do anything to you, Tyler. So why are you being mean with me? And that I think is, you know, another weakness in Tyler's game where once again, you have these relationships that you're creating, but you don't always do the best job at taking care of them in the way that maybe you need to. And Bailey is not like a Caitlyn where she's just going to cry on her way out. She is going to give you hell on the way out as well. And that's what we got.
Yeah, a lot of people remembered this season as like, oh, Tyler lost because he made too many final twos. I am on record for pushing back at that quite a lot because all of his final twos voted for him. And it was the people he didn't have final twos with that did not vote for him. And I think the other main thing that people point to is this moment because it really stuck in Bailey's mind that like this is the way that she felt on her way out the door from Tyler. You know, I think like there's a lot of debate about it because I think we had just come off of a season where Paul was doing all kinds of stuff. And the season before that, Paul was doing all kinds of stuff. And it was like what Tyler's doing is nowhere close to anything that Paul did. But that doesn't really matter. What matters is what's in the house in
How
your
you make
house.
people feel. Yeah,
exactly. And so a lot of people point to this moment, and I think they're right to do so. I think Bailey has a lot of influence in the jury. Now, I think as somebody in the chat is pointing out, the even bigger and more obvious thing is, yeah, just bring Angela to the final two instead of Casey, and you're in a better spot to begin with. But given that he ends up in the final two with Casey, Casey's just a lot more chill and has less reason to vote against her. Also, just like the makeup of the jury. If Caitlyn sticks around instead of, or just sticks around for another week, and then Bailey, ends up maybe pre-jury because of that, who knows? It's a whole other situation. But this is definitely one of the things the season is often analyzed for. How did Tyler lose? And this is one of the primary reasons you would point to. So just like that, Bailey is gone. And the following week, Haley wins the HOH. It doesn't go well.
This hacker twist is like a pain in the ass, man. A pain in the absolute ass. By the way, this cast photo for Haley is just simply fire. She has one of my favorite cast photos of all time. She just looks amazing.
I mean, how, like, is there a bad photo of Haley?
I don't think so. No.
So Haley winning this HOH is bad news because, like, for the first time ever, basically, Tyler has been outed. He's obviously with the enemy. He's working with Angela to take down Bailey. It's finally been revealed that Tyler is on the other side. So Haley and Fessy, they finally know what to do, right? That Angela and Casey and Tyler and Brett, they're all working together. We need to put two of them up. We need to send one of them home. They still don't know about JC. They still don't trust Scotty, but they still feel like they're with JC. They're with Scotty. They need to take down one of these people. But then the hacker twist comes into play. There's a few things here as well. Tyler also has the cloud power, and so he had tried to make sure that he knows that if Haley nominates him in the initial nomination, he tries to be not nominated initially. There's this whole hot tub conversation that lasts hours. Haley is drunk. She thinks, again, I'm gonna like manipulate Tyler. I'm going to make this deal with him, and that with the intention of potentially backdooring him if I need to, so on and so forth. It's a whole mess. It doesn't make this show, but it was quite funny. And
maybe Sam had a point. Crazy.
So Tyler is probably safe anyway, but one of his allies is not. And so with Angela and Casey on the block, things are very tricky, but don't worry, Casey wins the hacker competition. So she's able to remove herself from the block and replace herself with Rockstar. And I believe she also then was able to like guarantee that either her or Tyler played in the veto. And that meant that they had a good chance of keeping Rockstar on the block and sending one of Haley's closest allies home on her own HOH. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what happens. But don't worry, at this point, the show is still like, it's still season 20. It's still like, we're not going to go out with a whimper. This might be the death of our season, the fact that we have now given too much power to one side and the scales are going to tip too heavily. But we're going to go out fighting. And so it's not just that Tyler won the veto. It's that Rockstar helped Tyler win the veto.
Ugh.
And then she went home that same week.
It's just, it hurts. It hurts so bad. Because she had the right answer. He didn't have the right answer. Oh my God. The season ends so differently if this doesn't happen. It's just one of those things where it's just one small thing can cause such mess. And it's so, what I hate the most about it is that she's so down on herself that she must have the wrong answer, but Tyler must have the right answer because Tyler's good at everything. And it's like, no, you caught him at his worst moment and you still gave it to him! Oh my God, Faute is just so... The five of us to the eviction. That's what that shit should have been called, okay? They just signed their own eviction notice each and every time. Now, granted, I give Rockstar a little bit of grace here because if it not for this damn twist, there's no reason she should be this vulnerable on Haley's HOH.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Rockstar is evicted here, and but don't worry, because again, the season it really wants to go. The season refuses to let this become a steamroll because Fessy wins the following HOH, and it's like, okay, they were screwed over by a twist. Haley was not able to get out her target because the twist came in and got in the way. But Fessy came in and won a clutch HOH. And now, finally, they are going to scatter level 6, who has never truly faced enough adversity here. They've always had the upper hand. They've always been able to, even when they lose members, they're blindsiding the other side of the house. So now is the time to finally take a true shot to get some numbers back onto their side and get the momentum moving for them. Fessy, all season long, he's been asking who flipped, and now it's time for him to flip the script. Except the person that flipped was JC every time, and he still doesn't know it. And he thinks that the person is not Sam, but Scotty. He thinks that Scotty is sketchy. He trusts in JC, and so you know what JC does? He says, "I don't want Fessy to take a shot at Tyler or my people there. I don't like Scotty. I don't trust Scotty. Scotty is a piece in my way." And so JC gets in Fessy's ear and he says, "Scotty's the one." He's the one that's been sabotaging us this whole time. He's been flipping. He's been working both sides. He's not trustworthy. And we're all just like, this can't work. This can't possibly work. When they finally have a clear shot, they're not gonna take a shot at Scotty. Sure, he's making weird moves. He's not trustworthy, but he's been firmly on your side this whole time. And there's a whole group of people on the other side that you can't trust. Surely, this can't work. But JC gets into their heads, and then Brett goes up and he does his part, because ever since Tyler's been outed as being on the other side, Brett has taken his place as the person who's maybe not on that side anymore. Maybe he's playing the field. And so they think maybe they can work with Brett. And Casey goes up there and she's like, yeah, I think it was Scotty. I think he's been doing all this stuff. And Tyler goes up there and he's like, we can make a deal. Remember that hot tub conversation?
Oh my God.
And Fessy, in his infinite wisdom, nominates Brett and Scotty.
It's comedy. It's just,
we were in disbelief.
It's just, they had so many opportunities, and they just, it's like they Charlie Browned their damn selves. Like it's just crazy. And I think, like, after all this goes down, I have to find the episode now because I just want to watch it, because there's a moment in time where Fessy and Haley are in the bed and they're just looking back at the fact that it's just the two of them left, and they're like, we sucked. Like, Haley becomes HOH, Rockstar goes out. I become HOH, Scotty goes out. Like, it's just, oh my God. Like, it should not have been this much of a cakewalk for level 6s at this point. It should not have been. There were all bits and pieces there. And and a piece of this, it can't be understated just how much of this is fueled by the whole love triangle thing going on between Fessy, Scotty, and Haley. And it also doesn't help the fact that Scotty was like very honest with Haley about like having the crush, and then Haley also telling Fessy that, like, because all it takes is for JC to come to you and say, yeah, like, Scotty's the one that's been okay. So it's like, where were you this whole time, JC? Because it's not like you and I were in on the same thing the whole time. So, like, how would you even know it to be Scotty that was the thorn in my side this whole time? Like, but no, he's just so enraptured in the whole triangle of it all. It's just, it's a psyop. This is a whole psyop. It's a whole Falte psyop. That's what this season is.
Yeah. And this is the beginning of the end. Basically, as soon as this nomination is made, the season starts to really slow down. Because Brett wins the veto. Casey is the replacement nominee, but of course they have the numbers to send out Scotty. It doesn't matter if they realize their mistake or not. Scotty gets sent home. Only to come right back, basically. Because the third twist is the jury buyback, and Scotty is going to return to the game over Rockstar and Bailey and them, but I think it happens after
Fessy goes home
evict
next.
Fessy. But basically, like, Scotty leaves. Angela wins after Scotty. Okay, sorry. After Scotty leaves, let me just read to you the competition outcomes, right? Brett wins that veto. Fessy wins HOH. Brett wins veto. Scotty leaves. Angela wins the HOH. Casey wins the veto. Tyler wins the next HOH. Casey wins that veto. Casey wins the next HOH. Casey wins that veto. Tyler wins the next HOH. Angela wins that veto. Angela wins the next HOH. Casey wins that veto. JC comes in clutch and wins one HOH, but Casey wins that veto. And then Casey wins the final HOH. Basically, the rest of the season is solved. Casey, Tyler, and Angela trade off wins for the rest of the season with one small immunity win from JC. And the rest is just the way it goes. And of course, it's that one win from JC that screws Tyler over in very Shakespearean tragedy, ironic fashion. But man, did this season just slow to a crawl. And there's very little intrigue throughout. Angela wins that HOH. They take out Fessy. There's not much to that. Obviously, they're taking out Fessy. Scotty then comes back, and we are all groaning because now we just have to wait for them to evict him again, which, of course, they do when Tyler wins that HOH and Casey wins the veto, and they evict Scotty again. And then they still were like, okay, when are they finally going to turn on each other? And it's like, well, they had to deal with Scotty first. And then Casey wins the next HOH. It's like, oh, maybe this will be it. Nah, they decided against it. They do need to take out Haley first. So Haley's gone. And it's just been weeks and weeks and weeks of just the same thing, the same people winning power, just evicting the same people over and over. And it's getting a little tiring.
Yeah, that's, what happens when the major alliance sort of like dominates, and there's like little to no friction with the major players, because I feel like the ones that could have maybe caused a bit of a rift in level 6 kind of got taken out by default in the beginning. Winston left pretty early. Rachel was kind of a little bit of collateral damage, but it looked like they weren't really trusting her to begin with, so she goes. And then the remaining 4 are so tight that it's like, it is what it is at that point. It's very much like the brigade in that sense. Like, they get rid of the one that could have switched things up in Matt, and then the remaining 3 are just so good to go that no matter what happens, it's always going to be those 3.
Well, there is intrigue, right? Like, so basically in these 3 weeks, the thing that's happening is that Tyler and Angela are developing their romantic connection. They've become a couple, but they're hiding it from everyone. But Tyler's just spending most of his time with Angela now. By this point, he's completely dropped Sam. He just doesn't have the mental energy for it. And this we'll eventually find out in Big Brother All-Stars 2 is his Achilles heel. Tyler just doesn't have the emotional stamina to keep up with the style of gameplay he uses. And so when he's focusing so much energy on Angela, he does not have the energy to keep up with Sam, who is becoming increasingly erratic in the house and has been trying to quit the game for weeks, with the producers in the diary room convincing her not to.
If I go out, make a right, then make another right, then go down this hallway and make a left and make another right, I'll be outside.
And so while he's cuddling up with Angela, and I think that at the time, Rob would often say that like Tyler's getting too involved with Angela. He's like, that's the downfall of his game. And I would say like, well, the problem with Tyler is that he got too involved with Angela, but didn't follow through with it because he would have won against Angela. So he should have been more involved with Angela instead of throwing the final 4 veto. We'll get there. So all of this is happening. And in the meantime, JC we were talking about this. We're like, JC's played a great game so far, but he's running out of runway. The level 6 alliance has gotten too much power. He's going to need to break things up. And JC once again comes through. He's talking to Brett, and he convinces Brett to turn on level 6. And this is brilliant. All he needs is for Brett to win an HOH, and Brett's going to take down Angela. He's going to take down Casey. Unfortunately for JC, Brett does not win an HOH. But don't worry, this is the true downfall of the plan. They're going to get Tyler on board. Tyler, Brett, and JC together. They're a final 3. They're going to take down the other side of the house,
the women,
essentially the women.
Get them out of here. They got cooties.
Exactly. And so they approach Tyler about this, and Tyler's like, well, no, I'm with Angela and I've been with Casey this whole time. And so Tyler secretly concocts a counter plan to take Brett out before he can take a shot at them. And worst case scenario happens when it all goes down during a double eviction. And so we don't even get to see any fallout where Tyler wins the double eviction HOH. Angela wins that veto, and he's always 2 steps ahead. And they send Brett out the door.
Yeah. Very funny because this is sort of like what Brett was trying to accuse Rockstar of doing with him, trying to get him to flip the vote or whatever, or she said she was going to flip the vote or whatever. And then he kind of does the same sort of underhanded thing. And then it ends up being a bit of his downfall. You know, people had opinions about the whole speech once again between Tyler and Angela, 1 step ahead, 2 step ahead. You know,
I mean, that one is silly, especially given the fact that Brett ends up voting for Tyler. So it's like,
yeah, people were felt one way or the other, but Brett obviously did not. Game recognized his game at that point, and you know he was trying to flip, you know, things to his end. So, yeah, but you know, it was something. There were a lot of people that were like, yeah, Team Brett now, let's get this thing going. But nah, not gonna happen that way. Sorry.
Brett will eventually return to the circle, where he was actually pretty fun.
Yeah, he did a pretty good job. Yeah.
Oh. So with Brett gone, again, they just continue to win competitions. Angela wins the HOH, Casey wins the veto. They are deciding between JC and Sam who to evict. At this point, Tyler has neglected his relationship with Sam. She's feeling pretty burned by Tyler at this point because she feels like he has abandoned her. And so he feels very comfortable sending her out here and feels better about JC taking him to the end. Worst comes to worst. This is probably a bit of a mistake. JC now hasn't won any competitions and Sam has. So there's some reason to believe that JC will be easier to beat. And JC is also more loyal to Tyler and will bring Tyler to the end, whereas Sam would not. So, you know, those are obviously strong factors for keeping JC in. However, there's an argument to be made that JC is just way more capable of beating anyone else in a jury vote, which he was, than certainly Sam would have been, who wouldn't beat anyone in a jury vote. You know, all it took was a couple of clutch wins, and he got one of the 2 that he needed. So, you know, it's not something I would call an obvious mistake. Maybe a little bit like, you know, a Lisa Amy decision in Big Brother 3. But, you know, they do ultimately decide to send Sam out here.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it's just a situation where if you create a relationship with someone in the game to the point where, like, you know, it's a very functioning, you know, at the time, symbiotic relationship, there really is no reason to let it go before she's even gone. I'm not saying, you know, you're not going to have to vote people that you trust out. Of course you will, but she's in the house this entire time and you spend less and less time with her. You know, how is that supposed to make somebody feel? You know, that person will leave feeling used, and it's not a good feeling. So I think ultimately it just you know, it's okay to drop people. You just have to drop them gently. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. So,
and he's so happy too because he knew that those 3 were. Yeah. He's like, "You bitches, I got you. You guys were gonna get rid of me."
He still felt pretty good about Tyler at this point, but he was worried for sure. He was starting to see the writing on the wall, and so this win was huge for sure for him. And really, again, I can't stress enough how close JC was to winning Big Brother 20. Like, you know, there is absolutely a world where that happens. But he wins this HOH, and this is truly, like, this is what I would say probably more than anything costs JC or cost Tyler the win, because with JC immune, one of Tyler, Casey, or Angela has to be evicted. Now, Tyler is immune here, basically. It doesn't matter who wins the Final Four veto. If Angela wins it, she's evicting Casey. If Casey wins it, she's evicting Angela. If Tyler wins it, he can't evict himself. And if JC wins it, he will keep Tyler off the block, and Tyler will choose who to win, who to leave. Tyler is guaranteed Final Three without winning a single competition. However, almost because of that, Tyler, as with so many people this season, gets overconfident and thinks, I don't need to win this competition. I don't want to have to choose between my best friend Casey and my girlfriend Angela. And so if I win this veto, I will have to evict one of them, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to throw this veto. And what this meant was, especially with hindsight, Tyler was opening the door for Angela to be evicted in a spot where he would then go to a Final Three with Casey and JC. And when Angela gets evicted, Tyler can't win the game anymore. He can't beat JC in a jury vote. And we see he does not beat Casey in a jury vote either, even though it was quite close. He needed Angela to stay. And with both him and Angela competing in this veto, he had a very good chance of making sure that Angela would stay. In fact, the only person who could win this veto that would cost Tyler the game was Casey. If JC won it, and he would keep Tyler off the block, and Tyler could, if he were playing for himself, evict Casey and basically guarantee himself a win. If Angela won it, she would evict Casey and it would guarantee him a win. If he won it himself, he could use it to evict Casey and guarantee himself a win. But he threw it, gave the odds, gave the odds over, the odds advantage over, made a bit more of a coin flip. Casey won that competition. And because of that, she evicts Angela, and Tyler is locked into a Final Three where, yes, he is just as guaranteed a Final Two as he was a Final Three. In fact, Tyler is so locked into the Final Two in the first place from basically Final Five. He's not going to be evicted at 4. And no matter who he goes to the Final Three with, they're all still taking him. JC takes Tyler. Casey takes Tyler. Angela takes Tyler. The problem is he only beats Angela. And of course, he doesn't know that. But by throwing this veto, he gives his fate up to the Big Brother gods, and they are not favorable for him here.
Yeah, it's rough because like the whole end game is very much set up for him to make it to the end. It's just that not every path is a winning path. And when certain paths stop becoming winning paths, I think probably a little bit more up for debate because, let's say he decides back at the final, was it Final 6 at that point? Yeah, Final 6. Let's say that he decides to take JC and Brett up on the offer to try to go after some of the women. And let's say that he somehow Brett wins HOH, some combination of Sam, whoever else goes up, and they get Casey out of the game. Like, can you really trust Brett to keep you all the way down the line? Do you then trust to keep winning competitions back and forth between the two of you, or back and forth between you and Angela? It's a little bit more foggy. So yeah, you don't really know if that's going to work. And then if you bring it all the way to what actually does happen with Angela going out in 4th, and then you have to go into this Final Three. Is going with Casey the worst thing at the time in his mind? I don't think that he thinks so, but if that's what you're going to do, then you have to make sure that you're doing what you need to do with somebody like Sam. So it's like, I feel like there's all sorts of paths for him to make it to the end, but there's always like one little thing that is like keeping him from getting that win. And ultimately the clearest path is just trying to get there with Angela. I think at that point, you should just, because eventually, as we see, you end up with this woman for some time in your life. Just take Angela. I feel like Casey has been so chill the entire time that she's going to understand, and she's not going to vote for anybody else. Who the hell is she going to vote for? She's not going to be Angela. She's not going to vote for JC over you. Like, just get rid of Casey and win the game. But
yeah. Tyler, I would say, is probably one of the most locked in players to make Final Two in the history of the show. Just in terms of all of the pathways leading to the same result of him sitting in the final two. And he does so without even being a jury goat, like without even being somebody that is being taken because everyone thinks they can beat him. Nobody thinks they can beat him for sure. They're all just taking him purely out of loyalty. And that is pretty wild and very unique in this season. But there are, again, this is why we look at the mistakes he made, because it's like, it's so wild that a person like that actually ended up losing, and just by one vote, but like, yeah, it's still a loss. And so they get to the final three HOH. JC does not win part one or part two, which means it comes down, which means the final two is already locked in. Tyler's taking Casey, Casey's taking Tyler. And it is in both of their interests to do so at that point. There's no reason to take JC, who beats them both. And so they get to the final two together. And you know, there's some talk about this, that the votes actually were kind of locked in 6-3. That Tyler had Angela's vote, he had JC's vote, he had Brett's vote. But those were the only votes that he theoretically had coming into questioning. However, after the jury roundtable, the jurors go and are individually sequestered for a little while. In that time, and then also during the questioning, Haley actually ends up changing her mind and voting for Tyler, making it a 5-4 vote, which means that Tyler only needed that Sam vote. That's the only vote he needed, and he could have had it if he had just maintained that relationship. So that's another major factor that we would look at. If he gets, and this is, again, it's partially because he came so close. We look at all of these small mistakes that, like, if they had been corrected, could have changed things. If he had treated Bailey better, then maybe Bailey's that one vote he needs. If he had maintained his relationship with Sam better, maybe that's the one vote he needs. If he goes to the end with Angela, if he wins that final four veto instead of Casey, and Casey gets evicted and he goes to the final two with Angela, then that's all he needs. If Haley had had a chance to talk to Fessy and tell him to vote for Tyler, that's the one vote maybe he would have needed. There's so many different ways that he could have almost gotten there, and so you're looking at each one of them, and it's very interesting, but also it does not really help the season's entertainment value, because you've been watching this whole time about this one guy has been so locked in to get there, especially after 2 seasons of Paul getting there, and being especially in season 19 being such a lock to get there and then still not winning, and then Tyler is such a lock to get there and still doesn't win, and it starts to feel like this show is boring, and for no good reason, because the person dominating isn't even succeeding.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very nice case study, because it's really a question of like what loses you, Big Brother, more so than what wins you. And yeah, I mean, I still tend to think that I still think that there was a world in which Bailey could have voted for Tyler in the end, if there was more of an apology that took place maybe a little sooner. I don't know if the apology that took place finale night was really ever going to cut it. Maybe if he had more time, maybe, because the apology was very much like, I feel like we were all sort of like wondering, is he going to apologize after he just made those comments about like, F Bailey's vote, I don't give an F about her vote, I don't need it? Are you going to come to your senses and be like, you do need the votes in the end? And the apology was so short, it was so quick, it was so truncated that I'm like, like, I don't know if that was ever really going to be in your favor. And the Fessy thing is interesting because, does Haley have any pull over Fessy's vote? But I also do remember Fessy sort of just being so enamored with Casey as an athlete. He would constantly talk about how good she was with her hands, with those football hands. Like she was like, she just has such control of her body. Like he had such an admiration for that. So it's also like, does that, count for anything when it comes to voting for Tyler?
Fessy's explanation for his vote was kind of like, I don't know. She won more competitions, so I thought she deserved it more.
Yeah.
And I believe she won 8 competitions or 7 competitions
It
to
was a
Tyler's
lot
6.
of competition.
So that's kind of, he was like, yeah.
Yeah, and Fessy was never really the pinnacle of strategy, right? Like I'll never forget that that tweet of like, Fessy, you are the winner of Big Brother, and he's like, who flipped? Like, so like, it's just, I don't know. It's a lot of moving parts here. I remember, it did really feel like a letdown, and it's hard because it's like somebody like Casey who's not a bad person, not a bad player, decent, a soldier for her side. Like, she played a nice, clean game. She didn't really piss anybody off. And that is a winning game. It's not, we can't really compare Paul and Tyler together because it's different. I think the losses are different, but like, it just sort of like overall leads you with sort of like a bit of an empty feeling. Like a lot of the time, I kept forgetting who won BB20. Like no joke, not even to be shady. Like there would be times where I'm sitting like, wait, who the won BB? I was like, oh yeah, Casey. And that's just how you feel about her all season. It's just like, oh yeah, okay, that's fine, I guess. Whatever.
Mhm. I think the major thing left to talk about this season is that it was, and we didn't recognize it at the time. It wasn't until a season later in Big Brother 21 that we sort of realized, or at least I realized, what happened. Because there was a change made to the final 3, part 3 HOH. That historically it had always been a bit of a crapshoot. It was like finish the juror's sentence, and it was basically just guesswork. But in season 20, they changed it to be more studying based, more knowledge based, trivia focused, and that meant that, this was way more winnable. This change, people thought, oh, if it had been like this for Vanessa, she would have had a better chance to win part 3 of the final 3 HOH. Things like that. But this was not just a small change to part 3 of the final 3 HOH. This was, I think, an indication of a change that had slowly been happening over the last 5 years. And we had finally reached like the pinnacle of it. And it's a change that is going to continue to be an issue in Big Brother in the modern era through 21, certainly in 22, a bit of an issue in the end game for 23. Taylor flips the script in 24, and then a massive issue in 25, and that is the competitions. As I mentioned, in the end game, starting from week 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rounds of competition, and 3 people, just 3 people, won basically every single one of those competitions. Tyler, Angela, Casey, between the 3 of them, end up winning something like 19 competitions, which is just
Ridiculous.
absurd. And just a season later, we're going to see Jackson dominate endgame competitions because of his physicality. Just a season later, we're going to see the committee and Cody and how they are going to dominate the entire season of competitions through their physicality. A season after that, again, when we see the men of the cookout dominate the endgame competitions. And then a season after that, Monty and Michael dominate the competitions. And a season after that, Jag wins purely through competitions. And it all kind of started here. It kind of started before here. It started back in, 15 and 16, but it was a slow build to get to here. And this is when you can really finally start to see just how much of an issue it is. And at the very least, you would say, well, it's not quite the issue that it becomes, because it becomes an issue of gender, largely because, men are just winning competitions at such a dramatically higher rate than women. And in this season, you had Casey and you had Angela. The issue is that they're both athletes, and that's kind of the reason they're winning. And so that's why you might point to, like, is it Is it a problem with the competitions? Is it a problem with casting? Are you not casting enough female athletes, but you are casting tons of male athletes? And then you're putting athletic competitions on the show, which only inevitably will lead to men winning competitions at a considerably higher rate. And the rate is considerable. Upwards of 80% of competitions are being won by men starting from around this time period. It's pretty wild. The amount of people winning competitions is narrowing considerably. A smaller group of people are winning a much larger group of competitions. It's like wealth inequality, but for Big Brother, and it only gets worse, just like in real life. And so that's something I think we have to talk about with season 20. Now, hopefully worth noting is that Big Brother 26 started to see a little bit of a turnaround in this trend. And hopefully that turnaround continues in season 27. But it's a huge part of what made this season so boring as well, because all these people just kept winning competitions over and over. And it was really good when more people were winning competitions. This is such a great juxtaposition of Big Brother before the competition change, which is the first half of the competition change and the twist changes. And that's the first half of the season. And then the second half of the season is Big Brother after the competition changes and after the twist changes. And we see the twists and the competitions basically kill what was a bounty of a season. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, Big Brother has to get back to what the crux of the show really is, and it's that it's a social game first. Big Brother is not the challenge. It's not Survivor. The competitions really should be reminiscent of carnival games, right? Like I don't need to see who can throw something the best, at least not all the time. You can have physical competitions, that's fine. Throw them in there. But you want high variance. You want high variability. That is what is going to make a season cook, right? And it makes it all the more impressive because we can talk to the cows come home about like, oh my God, Jag won all these comps. That's such an incredible feat. What would be even more impressive is if it was one person that was winning all different types of competitions. Then it's like, oh my God, like that guy he's just a monster. He's an animal at this game. Like, but ultimately you never really want a game like Big Brother to be a situation where someone is able to win out, because then it negates the entire point of what makes the social part of this so fun, and again, y'all don't need us to say it. We have been preaching this to y'all for the past however many years, and like you said, Taran, it does seem like things are beginning to shift back in a more favorable position when it comes to how these comps are set up. So we can only hope that they continue to do so, because that's ultimately what makes, when you force these players to have to rely on their social wits, that is when things get really, really good. Because, just imagine people having to make more alliances because these comps just you can't really predict the comps anymore. So it's just, it's just everywhere, and people are lying to each other left and right and having to make and break promises. That is what Big Brother is. And who knows how to solve that, navigate through that mess? That is what I want to see in a Big Brother player. How do you navigate social mess and get to the top,
Mm-hmm. And so Casey is our winner. I think if you are looking for like the reasons why she won, I think some of the most impressive things that she did were just developing relationships with people. She just ultimately, when Tyler dropped Sam, Casey kind of stepped in. And I wouldn't say she picked Sam up, but she was able to sort of be like, "Hey, I'm here. I'll talk to you." She also was intentionally throwing competitions at the start to lower her threat level, and then just won a bunch of them in the back half of the game, which was obviously very impressive. And so, ultimately came away with the win. Has an illustrious career on the challenge. I guess I would say, I don't watch enough challenge, but does Casey or Fessy have a better challenge career at this point?
I don't watch enough challenge to know that either, but I believe it would be Casey, because she's at least, because Fessy won at any point.
I have no idea.
I don't think Fessy's won. I think he's come close.
I just know I've heard more about Fessy because he's constantly getting into drama, but I think that Casey also got into some drama.
he's definitely, I think he's definitely been on more than she has. But as far as like, obviously
Casey has won apparently, so I would say Casey has more success.
win
I would
rate,
assume.
definitely.
But really, here's the thing about the challenge is that the challenge success is less so, I would think, about winning and more so about how many seasons have you been on.
Yeah, it's a soap opera. You don't want to get dropped from the cast. That's
Right.
that's the true competition. How do you stay on?
Exactly.
So
I don't know. Maybe the chat can let us know who's been on more seasons. But still, if she won, then she's definitely got a leg up overall.
yeah, 2 shows. Good for her.
There you go. All right.
And she had Rihanna in her DMs at the end of her season and everything. I was like, girl, you can't mean as much as I can call you boring. I can't tell you shit, girl. You have Rihanna in your DMs. So
yeah. All right. Aman, who is on the poster for season 20?
Well, my second favorite player of all time, Mr. Tyler Crispin, is definitely in there.
Mm-hmm.
Who is next? This is interesting because I feel like there's a lot of ways that you can go. Well, obviously Caitlyn. I think Caitlyn definitely has to be up there, just given how she was the beating heart of Big Brother, the beating, bleeding heart of Big Brother 20 for the first half of it. And then that last position, a piece of me wants to give it to Bailey because Bailey was also such a big character for the show. There is the argument for JC. There's also a bit of an argument for Sam as well. I'm gonna kind of cheat. I'm gonna put Bailey there just because she has one of the craziest blow-ups on the show that I think that we've ever seen and probably will ever see. And I want like a small little side image of Sam's robot. That's what I want.
I'm already seeing a ton of different responses in the chat. I feel like this is a tough one. I think like Tyler is the only consistent one here. I'm seeing Tyler, and then who are the other two? I'm seeing JC a lot. I'm seeing Caitlyn a lot. I'm seeing obviously Casey as the winner has an argument. I think
no, I feel like Casey is the only winner that doesn't really have much of an argument. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I mean, I think between JC, Caitlyn, I think Bailey, I even saw some Haley, Fessy would be funny, Rockstar makes sense, Robot Sam, Angela has a like genuine. We didn't mention Angela also went on the challenge and had a good run. I think it was a different. I think it was like the CBS version though, and. I mean, I'm actually very curious to see where people go with it. I think in terms of like the strategic force of the game, I think Tyler JC makes a lot of sense. Character-wise, I think Caitlyn makes a lot of sense. Like major figures in the season, Bailey makes a lot of sense. It's there's a lot of options here.
Yeah, it's season 20. I mean, what else can we say that we haven't already said? It really is some of the best of BB, like BB at its best. And it just makes you want to chase that rush every season. You're hoping that we can get something of this caliber. And I just thank all of the people that are on this season for making it what it was. It was a really fun summer. And the coverage with RHAP and everything was so much fun. All of the alumni involvement. I feel like there were a lot of alumni that were like poking their heads up out of the grass that we haven't seen in a while because they were like, hold on now. This season is okay. Like, so yeah, this was a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, that is what we have for you today then for season 20 of Big Brother on the retrospective. If you want to vote for who is going to be on the Big Brother 20 poster, go to robswebsite.com/BB retrospective. I'll get that up as soon as I can. And we'll be back next week to talk about Big Brother 21. Getting into a little bit of the dark ages, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Season 27 has been announced now. We have a premiere date of July 10th. So this podcast is going to run basically right up until the premiere of Big Brother 27 with just about a week gap in between. So we timed it pretty well. So stick around as we finish out the rest of the Big Brother modern seasons. I still do not have a poster for season 19, so I'll make sure we get that for next week. And so we might have 2 posters for next week. So stick around for that as well. Aman, what are you up to?
You can follow me everywhere at Aman Adwin. I am chatting with Beth over at We Know Reality TV / RuPaul's Drag Race, where we have now reached the 10th season of RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars. It's the tournament of All Stars, as it is being described. It's been a lot of fun so far, so check us out over there. The first 2 episodes of the season have already been put out on Paramount Plus, with the episode for tomorrow coming out very shortly. And then I'm also with Matt Lagori, where we have been chilling in the diary room trying to determine who is the best Big Brother player of all time, but we're doing it in a little bit of an unconventional way, where we put everybody on a wheel, randomize it, put 3 matchups per episode, 6 players enter, 3 will be eliminated and 3 will move on, but dwindle it down until we get to the best. So we've been on it for like almost a year at this point, and we are just about halfway through the
The first round.
The first round. So we're going to be here for quite some time. Taran has already long since made his appearance. Hopefully not the last. So yeah, check me out over there at the Diary Room. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts.
All right. And of course, you can find me over on YouTube and Twitch. I've been making some fun videos watching The Genius UK. I've been trying to make some for The Devil's Plan. YouTube isn't quite letting me do that, but I've been getting a lot of great feedback for those, so make sure you check those out. And all the other stuff I'm doing. We know scripted and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for joining us here today to talk about Big Brother 20, and we will see all of you next time.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.